Welcome back to hashtag decolonizecannabis. This will be episode 6 featuring Tyler Tryhuba of Orgenics Cannabis Ltd. out of Macklin, Saskatchewan. And I'm stoked that we finally got to catch up. It was great talking with you earlier on the phone. Jonathan McGilvery, your assistant, your partner, man, he's been playing phone with me for sure for the last 3 weeks. We started in Manitoba. I'm an Alberta boy, now back in Alberta and exploring both industries for employment, getting a hands-on experience in the Canadian industry, requirements and qualifications for qualified cannabis worker and all of that, and how that's going to play out over the next little while. So I missed your product debut in Manitoba, unfortunately. I'm aware that it's coming out here. It's looking like I should be here in January still, but again, it's all up in the air, man. So we'll see what I can make out of the next 2 weeks for sure. But no further ado, Tyler, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your journey in the industry and Orgenics, what it started at and where we're at now, man.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for having me, Jordan. And yeah, it's finally nice that we got a date set, and I know it was back and forth there. And so I was born and raised in Macklin, Saskatchewan. Went off to school in Edmonton, Alberta to pursue my business management diploma. Moved back to Macklin to work in the oil field to pay off some student debt. While I was checking wells, I had one well that was run by a natural gas generator known as a genset. And at that time was just kind of the start of legalization. So I was trading a couple of the publicly traded companies, and I was listening in on a shareholder meeting. And one of the big expenses they kept talking about was electricity. Obviously, cannabis facilities, grow lights and all the HVAC equipment draws a lot of power. So sitting on that site, I started thinking, well, I wonder if I could run one of these facilities off one of these gen sets. Long story short, wasn't really economical to do so, but yeah, here we are. Just licensed in September 2020 and finally getting to market in past August here.
Awesome. So for the most part then at this time out of Macklin, then are you operating micro license or like standard license?
We got a micro cultivation license.
Awesome. So just flower at this time then for your product, or you?
Yeah, right now we got our dry flower. Actually have the product in front of me here.
Right on.
3.5 gram. And then our pre-rolls just hit the market this week.
Very cool. So how was the pre-rolling? How does that work out for you as like going from the micro to growing to cultivation? And then obviously like, does the pre-roll come into play with the same packaging and labeling, like who you're working with for your packaging? Or are you having to find another source for the pre-roll kind of starting to get out there like that?
Yeah, so for our pre-rolls, so for our packaging and our sales, we go with our partner Acreage Farms. They're based out of Piers, Alberta. At the moment, they couldn't do our pre-rolls, so we worked with another company, Freedom Cannabis, just outside Edmonton. And yeah, so they did our milling and our pre-rolls and put them in containers, and then they go up to Piers, and then they're distributed from there.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So how is it breaking into the Manitoba industry? Like I know like we transitioned here, you were coming in and not hooking up. I ended up in Alberta. I know so Sandy Lake, for example, Lions Roar Cannabis Store is definitely carrying your product. If the first chance I have to consume it in Manitoba is going to be in Manitoba when I'm back, is Sandy Lake the only place I'm going to find it, or are we able to get it out quite well into Manitoba?
Yeah, we've been making progress. We're in quite a bit of stores in Winnipeg, and then yeah, kind of all over Manitoba. I know, yeah, we're like you said, Sandy Lake. I know Thompson, and yeah, there's a bunch of communities that are supporting us, and it's been great getting that support from a neighboring province.
Well, definitely a good time to connect. Either way, like I said, like I've been managing a company as not a grower. Obviously, I'm in the process of the CTLS to be a licensed grower. And in that process, Fleurysh Ventures Ltd as an auxiliary company floating in the industry, providing the digital marketing platform and looking at other regulations that kind of hinder producers, all in preparation for that moving up. And I with that being said, I'm out, so I'm here. I'm now, the obvious has come. So Manitoba was slow on consultation. While I was making moves, making connections for Manitoba, fortunately, I have connected with two medical cannabis and recreational cannabis consultants. One in Alberta here, just out of Edmonton, 2 Jays McLeod, and then previous to that, Stephen Teed out in BC. And so part of that choice for me to come out of the situation is that Manitoba is definitely hesitant. Like hence the purpose of the decolonized cannabis platform and the destigmatization push in behind that, basically bringing public cannabis education right to the forefront and a new avenue and presenting it for Manitobans. But it was a tough go, man. Nonetheless, like people in Manitoba are still suppressed by the provincial regulations on the lack of ability to produce cannabis in general, 4 plants per household. So, I mean, we were up against a bit of a barrier there, and as much as we wanted to make that happen, right? Moving now into the overall reality that the province is just not ready to really move in with an establishment like consultation services. And so for the most part, I find out here, I've had a meeting with the banking institution. All of that is great. Definitely the environment out here is a lot more receptive, even at that level, at the corporate level and going in for corporate banking. Totally different scenario out here. But it's strange because the interviews that I'm landing here this week are all in Manitoba, right? In Winnipeg. So it's going to be a perfect opportunity because one or two of these I'm going to commit to. I'm going to lock it down. So whether I'm in Alberta for the next couple of months or I take something in Manitoba and I go out there, the idea is though I'd like to be back in Alberta in 2022 and really kicking things up out here with it, likely closer to spring. So I mean, can't go wrong connecting because, man, if I land at 420 here where I've got an offer on the table, Winnipeg, if you've Luxleaf is where I'm going to be interviewing there. I've interviewed Tokyo Smoke. So I mean, it's the idea, the concept of what we're doing here that snowballs and eventually still becomes something. And for us, it's been a bit of a slow ride, but I mentioned to you earlier, we are moving towards monetization platforms. Not guaranteed at all of them, but we've been approved for them based on the content and based on the feedback that's coming from the views as well. So I can't wait for that kind of stuff because if the regulations lift, it might not be so hard for someone like yourself to actually invest into some appropriate brand marketing in the exact market that you want to be targeting. And so hopefully that all comes around, including the publications. So we're launching publications. So if it's podcast now, and you find the reviews are well on it, or you have people reaching out to you, because that's what I'm going to do is put it out there for you. Even 3 months down the road or a month from now, I'm more than willing on the freelance. So it kind of goes to see how it works, because it's you producers can't pay me to advertise. I don't ask for pay for advertisement, but I definitely can do the freelance publications, right? So I mean, it's another avenue where I can highlight certain things and definitely get it out there. And yeah, man. So I mean, other than what's the anticipation for Alberta? What does it look like if I'm sticking around out here? What are we expecting for your product, and which product and when possibly?
Well, with Alberta, yeah, we're in talks with another company. I can't really disclose at this time, but right. Our partners, Acreage Farms, they went through an ownership change, so they had to redo their stuff with AGLC. Unfortunately, they're not in Alberta, so they have the sales license. We just have our cultivation license. So we're working with another partner. Things are going pretty good, and hopefully, yeah, we get some of our product in Alberta soon. But yeah, more to come. Alberta definitely being a big market, and definitely with Macklin being right on the border, it's we have some neighboring towns that have retail stores that are definitely looking forward to carrying our product, which is great. But yeah, did you? Yeah, and speaking of advertising, that's it's absolutely fantastic what you're doing. As you know, there's not many avenues for producers for advertising. It's pretty strict right now, and hopefully with podcasts like this and getting people more familiarized with cannabis, the stigma kind of lifts.
That's it, exactly.
Did you get your the banking situation figured?
Well, it's tricky. So when I left Manitoba, the position we were in with like, I was pursuing corporate banking with CIBC, and that was based on some of the heavy corporate funding they put into the Valens company, for example, and some other projects, but into the multi 40 and $80 million investments. So they look favorable on working on it. In the end, leaving Manitoba with the type of business we run, it's a hard concept for them to see with so much time and emphasis put in, my investing in education and then navigating the regulations to realize, hey, I'm not a producer yet. So I could essentially set up a platform like others are in other parts of North America and still launch the build up for it. So it was a hard concept for the banks in Manitoba, because what they're wanting to see ROI, right? They're wanting to see the debits, not the credits. So when I'm sliding, whether it's a $10 super sale on some high-end pre-roll, or I'm dropping $40 on product reviews from a variety, for example, and then 2 weeks lapses before I take, say, a freelance pay, then with them it's high risk. With them, they're not entirely confident in Manitoba as to what it is I actually do and how I operate. And we did have luck with other funding and other funding programs. And one in particular, I'm hoping to really nail down for January, but it would be in Manitoba as well. So, I mean, there's lending avenues to go that look at general startup business. And then it comes down, what I've learned with Manitoba banking and then coming out here is, where in Manitoba, we were at the end looking, well, one, I'm looking for full-time employment, because it's reached a point on that end where they're looking at what I can do now to obviously not impact my personal credit overly, right? So it's a hard one, because, as your startup and being focused as a grower and what you would want to do, for me, it's a little bit different. But to swallow some of the pride and then take on industry employment, I mean, it's the best of both situations. Everyone that I'm interviewing, I'm being quite open about what I do. They look into it. And I mean, most retailers so far, 3 for 3, are like, hey, that's a total asset. I mean, whether you work for us full-time or part-time, if you're going to review our product, you're going to be talking about us all the time. So, I mean, those rewards are there. But walking into the industry here, like into my first week here, and meeting with the financial advisor, the chief financial advisor, actually, who was able to pull the file from Manitoba and look at everything that we had kind of attempted to accomplish with even like minuscule, like 5K funding as in ag sector or whatnot, commercial sector. They definitely see it here in Alberta as more of an appealing fit. So where Manitoba wants us to run the books no matter what until December 2022, where we could qualify for commercial lending, they slide all the emphasis over to personal credit, obviously. So then, hence, it's like, okay, where am I? I need to get an industry job super quick. I did farming. I was a potato farm manager when I first started Fleurysh Ventures Ltd, moving from Indigenous consultation to cannabis. It was fitting then, very environmentally, but to uproot now after the sacrifices that have been made and go into it to a complete 180 again, the time occupancy from that. So it's more about staying focused. It looks like the industry is here a lot more embracing. The retail response that I've been to definitely are like, wow, they've checked it out. Some of them heard of it. And then with banking here, the difference is going to be that pulling things together sooner than later personally allows them to very quickly kind of go into the stages of getting me set up corporately. So it's definitely more appealing here that way, where it's not so foreign that there's not just growers and retailers, right? Or processors, that there is the industry as it opens up, the avenues are going to be wide and broad. So it's a matter of trying to hold on to what I started, man. And you know what I mean? If I've got to go back and forth month by month for the next 3 months or 4 months, until it's kind of sorted out to where the most appealing situation to let it fly, where I'm going to be getting the more calls from growers like yourself to even visit sites, right? So that's one of the next steps for me that way is with the security clearances, once they're achieved, if I'm not going to pursue license holder capacity any longer, then I'd like that security clearance to apply still to decolonized cannabis, where possibly with an arrangement and being security cleared in the CTLS, visiting your your spaces, for example, and doing live podcast tours and then really kind of showing it off, or reaching the point where I'm being invited to do that. Plus out here, like I said, yeah, it's looking way greater chance to be doing in-home consultations here, based on, again, somebody I know that does an area, and a meeting I had yesterday, just a colleague meeting I had with some colleagues that I made from down in the States with their affiliations to the area, Calgary and Edmonton. And they, same deal, they know that consultation here is not taken for granted in any way. Like it's pretty common. People are growing cannabis here medically and recreationally. So it's kind of where I need to be right now. Definitely anything I can accomplish here, I want to bring it back to Manitoba and still rock the boat there, right? So I'm definitely looking, like I said, man, I was stoked that it worked out for the transition, and you know, the last 3 weeks especially, for you guys to maintain communication and kind of bear with me to get it back on track. It's a good time because I'll have more podcasts coming up after you guys, and I'm on North American Weed Tour this weekend again. So definitely feeling better about things, and then hopefully it happens, man. Like, you know, because there's entities like the one I've started, when I'm not the first, right, was one of the first kind of in the area to really embrace it for what it could be. But definitely, you know, if you're reading Leafly and you're reading Respect My Region and the Kenigma, right, like those are entities that started like I did 5-10 years ago. And I've got connections to all of them, man. So, you know, keep up the writing, keep it up. That's what I want to do.
Keep pumping out that content. yeah, that's great. Yeah, with the banking side of things and CIBC to mention, I mean, for us it was a little different. Like I wasn't even looking for funding when we first started, but I couldn't open up a bank account. So it was, just over 2 years ago now, and I actually think we were the first cannabis company that CIBC opened up an account with in Western Canada.
No kidding. Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, there was hurdles, and yeah, the banking was definitely a big one. But yeah, when do you ever hear of a bank not wanting to take your money? It was ridiculous.
Exactly.
But yeah, for tours, I mean, for the time being, if you're ever in the area, you know, make sure you pop in, say hello, and to my knowledge, unless the regulations have changed, which they are ever changing, I'm pretty sure that you would be able to host a podcast, say, in our facility here. You just need a security cleared individual with you at all times, kind of thing.
Cool. Oh, right on. That's good to know, man. Because yeah, when I go back, I'll be driving either way. So I noticed the Macklin sign when I went through Saskatchewan there last week. So yeah, it shouldn't be too far. And I've got another connection in Medicine Hat that I'm going to be, we're going to be doing a podcast as well, hitting up their retail store. So if I can connect you afterwards, I'm telling somebody right now probably would connect with you on carrying new product.
Yeah, appreciate that.
That's what it's all about, man. That's definitely the one thing that I found, like the cannabis community, you know, like cannabis culture, and there's really no faking it until you make it in the industry, right? A lot of it, I've never been one for nepotism, but it does come down to who you know in the industry and what you know afterwards. It's kind of what I'm learning, right? That's what I learned. Probably one of the hard deals to learn in Manitoba was that with the suppression of the provincial government on the way it's rocking, and then the hybrid model, it's very, very tight knit there. So it's kind of hard to get in. Their retailers are very responsive in person as far as engaging the idea and what to go with, but definitely hesitant to come on the podcast. Daryl was fantastic in the beginning because he's mom and pops, and he's been the guy's been with Normal for almost 40 years, right? So the opportunity for him to come out right off the bat in a 3-piece publication, the no hesitancy at all, and really trying to get the ball rolling on what could we actually end up with for an industry in Manitoba as opposed to maybe the way it's rolling out right now, you know? So that's kind of what else can you really do, right? So plus, I mean, you can't go wrong if I stick to the plan and end up going micro grow, right? I'd rather, when the time comes, not be doing it on my own, to be a part of the community and have the resources and like how you're doing it, I think that would be fabulous, like to have a sales partner and to have a process partner and a package and kind of spread it out, because really, the more the merrier in that regard. So
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to where you need people on your team like that. When we first started out, I started out as the only employee, and yeah, it was pretty wild at the start, taking care of all the plants and then the business same time. And yeah, when it got time to sales, there's no way I'd be able to do it all. So yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate to have someone like John McGilvery. He's excellent. He actually didn't start in that position. He was here as a facility operator, as someone looking after the plants in the facility.
cool.
And I could just pick up his kind of salesman vibe, I guess you'd say right off the bat. And yeah, what a perfect fit for the position.
Well,
Too bad got his times wrong and couldn't be here for this. But that's the joy of living on the border with time change.
he was definitely committed to making sure that you appeared. So I mean, yeah, that's a solid move on his part for sure. I appreciate it too, man. Cool. So any expansions in mind, anything on that, like that you can disclose? Are you guys looking to go bigger? Are you looking to maybe bring a processing plant in the picture, anything like that?
I mean, down the road, I think I'd be a fool to say we weren't looking at expanding into processing. Margins are already tight, even if you are a processor. So to be able to, not only help with those margins, but to have ultimate control over our product is definitely a goal of mine. But for the time being, I'm very happy with our partners up at Acreage Farms. They're great partners, very responsive. Their packaging is, yeah, I love it. So yeah, right now we're focusing on optimizing the strains that we are growing here, and right down to the phenotype. And then when that time comes, then we'll see what happens.
Awesome, Tyler. How about CBD product? Have you guys thought, have you done any hemp production, or has it been in the back burner? You guys thinking? Because I mean, they haven't really announced any major regulation changes. Anyone watching lately is seeing, I think it makes sense. We're seeing more of the collaboration, merger acquisition that's happening. Some of the larger facilities that are going, that are closing. So I mean, for the most part, the regulations is one, obviously what we're talking, branding, marketing. Nothing's come out about that yet. As well, nothing's come out as far as the CBD becoming more regulated again beyond topicals and whatnot. So I know that in the medical, the onset, they mentioned the medical regulation changing as far as boundaries for consumption, and then including topical creams for workplace and stuff like that. Has Orgenics looked at that from the very beginning at all? Could you see Orgenics possibly doing CBD production or hemp production?
Possibly CBD production. I did when we got our license. I do have some CBD strains in the vault, and we've been told by retailers too, it just on the recreational market, there's a gap, an opportunity, I guess you'd say, that there isn't many CBD products on the market. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to bring out my favorite strains that I grew prior to having this facility to market. And then, yeah, maybe down the road when we get bigger, or who knows, maybe I might just have a feeling one day that time to pop one of our CBD strains.
Cool, man. Well,
yeah, the medical side of things, I'm not too knowledgeable on it, but yeah, it's interesting, the differences in regulation from cannabis production to the hemp producers. You can go into a massage therapist, a spa, and there's CBD products on the shelves, but with much different regulations than what you would see at, say, a retail store. Yeah, interesting to see how that plays out down the road for sure.
Awesome. I get I'm thinking we're nearing the end, man. We hit a lot there. You talked a lot about the Orgenics, and where you began. Talked about any possible expansions. Do you have any questions for me as far as the show goes, or startup and that? I know I'm long-winded, man, so I probably hit on a few things there in those 10 minutes of my 2 10-minute spurts. But
yeah, No, I don't got any questions at all. Again, love what you're doing with the podcast, and yeah, I think it's great. It's unfortunately cannabis still has some sort of stigma with some people, and the more it's talked about, the more that kind of goes away. And yeah, thanks for what you're doing. Truly appreciate it. And yeah, as soon as that product's in Alberta, I'll make sure yeah, we send you some Pineapple Express, or let you know where you can get it.
Definitely. If we can connect, like you said, man, if we can connect, we'll do that for sure. Even like if I could hit you guys up either way. So you know what, just throwing it out at the end here. I like to throw some things out around. So obviously anybody catching it for the first time, checking it out, www.fleurishventureslimited.com. Catch our website. Most of these episodes get uploaded there. You catch up my freelance publications there. Anything that's up in there is basically up for grabs. And I'm out in Alberta, if you didn't know, from Manitoba, staying in Calgary, hitting the industry here now for 3 weeks. Definitely going to be a few more weeks going back and forth, Manitoba, Alberta, comparisons and the interviews and everything else that goes with it. And the mad love for my brother that's put me up out here, also doing his own thing. He's a handicrafter. And we're looking at breaking some of his product into cannabis retail stores. So he's custom craft design, was on Canada's Next Top Handyman, and Neato Boards, as you can find him out on most of his social media accounts. Check that out. If you're a retailer, definitely the guys can, you know what I mean, they can come in, they can deck out all kinds of stuff. So with that, Tyler, any love you want to throw out for any of your partners, any of your colleagues, your hometown, your strains, anything at all, man? Last words for you. And yeah, let it out.
Well, I guess all I'd say is, yeah, if you're in Saskatchewan or Manitoba, check out our Pineapple Express, and let me know what you think. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for me.
All right, man. Well, thanks again, and we'll catch up with you soon.
All right, thanks, Jordan. Take care.